You're listening to the Roofing Success Podcast, a show created to inspire roofing contractors to achieve optimal success in their roofing businesses. I'm the host, Jim Moline, the co-author of the book, Internet Marketing for Roofing Contractors, How to Triple Your Sales and Turn Your Roofing Website into an Online Lead Generation Machine. I'm also the co-founder of Roofer Marketers, the digital marketing agency for the roofing industry. On each episode, I'll be sitting down with industry leaders to talk about their processes, the lessons they've learned, and how to find success in roofing. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast. As always, please like, share, comment wherever you're listening, whether it's on iTunes, if it's on SoundCloud, any of the podcast platforms, or watching us on YouTube. It helps us out, and it helps spread the value of our content across the community. So also, if jump onto Facebook, type in Roofing Success, join the Roofing Success Facebook group. And if you find value in any of these podcasts that we're doing and you're implementing them in your business, bring it over to social media, hashtag a post with hashtag Roofing Success. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about money, cash flow, right? We need to get that cash flow. Cash is king, and lack of cash flow in your business can end your business quickly, right? So we're here with Patrick Carr and Anthony Montero of My Claims Care. Guys, if you want to introduce yourselves and kind of explain how you guys got into, really collections and accounts receivable and helping contractors to manage that effectively.
Good. So we started 4 or 5 years ago with Greenlight. We were previously handling collections for condo and HOAs throughout the Southeast United States. We transitioned over to construction primarily for the lien. So the lien ensures that you have a secure asset, which is a very valuable tool when it comes to collections itself. Credit cards, telecommunications, any collections like that. It's, shooting fish in a barrel type of deal. With a lien, you have something that backs that debt. It prevents bankruptcies, foreclosures, all of that. You're a secured creditor, which is tip top of where you want to be if you're doing collections. So that's kind of why we navigated down that road, because it's similar with HOA and condos. They have liens as well. So we took this path. We did 3, 4, 5 years of that, and it is the worst thing that you could ever imagine is doing construction collections, because collections in general is just not the best business to be in. We have a horrible stigma, just like roofers may have at times, of which they're shady, they do this, they do that. So it's not fun, to say the least. And then you sprinkle construction on top of that. So workmanship defects, all that great stuff that if you do telecommunications, HOA liens, you don't have to deal with that if you paid the bill or you didn't pay the bill. Any consumer just has the easiest out in the world when it comes to this particular type of collections. That being said, it took us a while, being new to the industry for sure, but we eventually, found a common denominator with respect to the type of accounts that were being turned over to collections, insurance being that common denominator, which to me, again, blew my mind because of our background. Our background's collections. So collections means you don't have money. Well, you're like, boom, all this is money all day. What the hell is going on with these files? So we dug deeper into that, and then we believe we've created something that, removes collections altogether. Good companies averaging 3 to 4% a year on write-offs. Funding if everything getting paid upon completion is a way better option than ever even having to deal with any of that, if I had to say.
Yeah. Jim, to kind of piggyback off that, what we found is, rewind to early 2018, we're working with roofing contractors across the Southeast, and we found one common denominator, about 5,000 files that we got. Almost 90% of those files that were delinquent had something to do with insurance claims. It could be that the person took a depreciation check. It could be that they decided that, hey, listen, they forgot about the check once they got the ACV, the sales rep gets fired, and they don't follow up on that check that gets to the homeowner. So we were looking at this and going, man, there's an epidemic in this industry where individuals are doing the work, they're signing the deals, but too often they're not getting the money in the door after they sign the deal. And that's how we got into the collections world and how we tried to move into my claims care to solve that problem.
And that is an interesting point. You really would think, or I would think, that that the collections and AR side, having a more difficult AR balance in your company would be more if you were a retail contractor.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you wouldn't think, because that insurance money is there, right? So that is very surprising. And so you found that, like, the company just wasn't following up as well to get to go and collect those depreciation checks and things like that? Or how did that come about? Like, where did you find that little niche?
Right. So here's a common misconception, Jim, for your viewers out there that are roofing contractors. You got a lot of guys out there doing, let's say, 3 to 5 million a year. Doing 3 to 5 million a year, they're carrying around an AR of about 500,000 at any given moment. Now, when you talk to these guys, what they will say is, great, that money is collectible. We're going to get that 500,000 eventually. They're on a 120-day cycle or whatever it might be. Here's the catch though, Jim. Once they go ahead and they collect that 500,000, there's another 500,000 from the jobs that they're now waiting on. They never have that access to capital because they're constantly on a 120-day cycle at the mercy of insurance companies and banks trying to catch their own tail. And that's what we saw in the collections wing, is that not that the money's not collectible, but as soon as you do, if you're trying to grow your company, there's more jobs you've done and you're trying to collect on those.
Yeah, and to touch on that point, the 500K, if you send any of it to a collections attorney or a collections company, they are taking a contingency of that 500K. To give you an idea, after 6 months passed from the date the job was installed completion, 6 months later, our rate was 30 to 40% of the principal balance is what we were charging. And just think of it, I get 100 files. A good collection company doing telecommunications is collecting 27% clip. Of course, you got to charge those rates. So I'm best case, I'm collecting 27% of it. Now again, sprinkling construction. So what do you think you're really collecting?
Yeah, really. And that's, cash flow is what's needed. It's to keep a business going, right? You need to continue your marketing. You need to continue paying your people. You need to continue moving the business forward, investing in, maybe a new vehicle or an equipped or a catch-all or something like that. You need capital to do that. And I know I've seen it too many times where companies just get bogged down on that side and just lack that cash flow. Mm-hmm. Or they start to go into more maybe a commercial project, and they're thinking that the residential is gonna carry them through the cash flow needs of that commercial project, and something happens and it doesn't work out.
Well, Jim,
go for it.
I could piggyback off that for 1 second. What we saw in the collections world that was very unfortunate is that when you are doing insurance, regardless of the kind of insurance you're doing, you have taken the control out of your business. You are no longer in control of your cash flow. The person who's in control of your cash flow are insurance companies, big banks, and then the homeowner as well, because that's the individual that you're going to have to get your checks through. There's a problem there. We've got a kink in the hose with insurance, and the reason that no one's addressing it is, in my opinion, because it's the status quo within the industry. It's just, okay, this is what we do. We've got to put on a roof. We're going to get part of the payment then, maybe an ACV check, ship it out to Wells Fargo for an endorsement, hope they get it back to us so that we've got money for materials and supplies, put the roof on, pay our labor, wait for depreciation, supplement after, and wait for that check, which most of the time is not even going to have your name on it. It's just going to have the homeowner's name on it. And you're going to have to send a sales rep out for 2 hours to go out there and pick up a check you should already have in your bank account. That is where we saw the system was broken.
Yeah.
I say that because it's the pain that we run into with roofers across the country right now. And they're trying to figure out, how do I grow my business? How do I market this thing when my mind is thinking about the 500,000 plus I've got sitting in AR that I've got to go out there and chase? It's holding people back from reaching their full potential.
So
Yeah.
it's funny you say the status quo. The thing that blew my mind when I first start to hear the rebuttals to our service is, well, I don't wait that long. I get the ACV check, and then we're waiting, 4 or 5 weeks for depreciation. I'm like, why are you waiting for the ACV check to start your job? That's 4 weeks later. You just told me if you sign up a claim and that claim is approved, you should be putting that roof on this month. Like, why do you think it's okay? Like, it blows my mind. They don't think it's a big deal because you have 3 months, 4 months of work that you put in to build up that clientele to production. But you didn't have that when you first started. You would have loved to be able to start that job the minute you signed it up.
Yeah,
Right.
definitely. So let's go into a little bit about, like, when I've been involved in a lot of real estate investing and learned like the lien laws and things like that. One of the things that we kind of rely on in the construction industry is mechanics liens, right?
Mhm.
So, we always think, well, we'll be able to get that money because we can file a mechanics lien on the property, we can lien the property, and we will get that money from those houses. I know you've done, I mean, being what, in the service that you guys are doing, you guys have researched these lien laws all across the country. And I had some experiences, while I was doing some like renovating houses and things like that, where I had to have some disputes with contractors and working with lien laws. And this was out in Colorado at the time. And one of the things that I learned quickly was that a mechanics lien in Colorado has to be filed very specifically and precisely.
Yep.
Right. Like this, it was like the kind of the way it was
called perfecting the lien is what it's called.
Yeah, perfecting the lien. Right. And so for contractors that are just, man, hey, we got all this out there, we're going to rely on this coming to us someday. There's a lot of nuance in the lien laws across the country. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, so it very much is nuanced. And my recommendation to anybody, just like I wouldn't go put a roof on myself because I don't know how to do that. Go hire a professional to do it. Don't spend the $400 to secure your 20,000. It's ridiculous not to. Have someone that knows what they're doing. Whether it's an attorney, they'll do it and they'll send it out for you and they'll make sure it's perfected lien. Every state is different. If I told you I knew every state, I'd be lying to your face because it is very complex, like you said. With Florida, for an example, obviously we're familiar with that being home base. With Florida, if you do the lien wrong and you have the wrong amount, you could be liable for that amount of the lien. They could flip it right back on you that now you owe the 20,000 when you meant to put 19,900.
Man, it's so crazy.
So one other piece of advice I have about liens, Jim, is when you go out there and people file a lien and they would come to us and say, okay, guys, we want you to enforce this lien. We want to go after this individual. We would constantly see one thing in a contract. If you're a contractor listening, go to your contract now and look for this clause, arbitration. Most attorneys, when they write your contract, they will put an arbitration clause. There's a lot into there. This will prevent you from immediately going into foreclosure with the individual. It will make you have to go to arbitration first. There are good and bad advantages to that. On the good side, sure, you're not having to go before an attorney or before a judge. But on the bad side, keep something in mind here, that you're not going to have as much teeth. You're not going to have as much bite to your bark when you don't have that ability to go right to foreclosure and you've got to go to arbitration. How much confidence do you have in your workmanship? How much confidence do you have in your process? If you would say it's very high, I would remove that arbitration clause so that you do have the ability to move right to litigation and go after your money in the most aggressive way possible.
Yeah, that's great advice. That, because that's kind of where I ended up in mediation and arbitration.
Yep.
And the contractor had to, there was a lot of extra back and forth because of that. And they actually never got to file the mechanics lien in our case, but that was, that's great advice. And so what would be the perfect process for you guys? What do you think the perfect process is for a contractor to to have this in place? I know my claims care would be the perfect process, but let's talk about it. We'll get to that, but let's talk about the perfect process. If you owned a roofing company, how would you structure it to make sure that you had the best kind of collections process and the least amount of AR on an ongoing basis?
So what I would do is 100% I would have an attorney review my contract, make sure my contract is up to all statute that requirements. So Florida requires specific language for lien law within your contract. So I'm sure there's plenty of other states that have those same requirements. You want to make sure that your contract first is valid. I definitely would start there. Yeah. From there, make sure you're enforcing your contract correctly. Just because they do something wrong, that is not okay for you to do something wrong too. Let them breach the contract, fulfill your side of it. If you fulfill everything within your contract, you have such a better case when you're fighting it down the road. Inevitably, they are a consumer, so they win no matter what. That's how a judge will see it. They get the doubt. So don't give them a reason to doubt you.
Yeah.
So do that and then hire professionals. I wouldn't be a doctor and I wouldn't do my own roof, and I would stick to what I am good at. If you want to be successful, that's the best way to do it.
I would say, and only thing I would add to that is, if whatever your process is, I'll give you an example. You put on a roof, and if you're not paid in full within 45 days on a retail job, your process is to put a lien on that home. Or let's just say it's better than that. Just say you do an intent to lien at 45 days, a lien at 60 days, depending on what your state is. I cannot tell you, Jim, the number of times people would come to us in 90 days and we'd go, well, I'm looking at your process here. Did you get the intent to lien out at 45 and the lien at 60? No, we were working with Miss Smith and she told us that she was going to have a set check at day 75. We missed it. We're not sure now. Now, what do we do, guys? Well, whoever you go to is not going to be a miracle worker. So whatever your process is, stick to your process. Yeah. Don't deviate from it. And then once you make that and it works for you, you always go with it. Sales reps, back of office, everybody knows what's expected of them.
And to touch on
creating that procedure and having that, you had mentioned like your intent to lien filed at a specific date, and that's all based on your local mechanics lien laws, right? Your local statutes. So make sure that you understand the statutes and work backwards and make sure that that's all in place as best possible.
And document everything. Document your phone calls.
Everything.
Document everything. You are preparing for doomsday if you think you are putting a lien on there, and you want to be prepared and have your T's crossed and your I's dotted.
That's right.
Hey, Jim, can I tell you another big misconception I see out there in the collections world for your contractors out there?
Yeah, for sure, man.
So what we got, man, is we would get a lot of files. I'd say 5,000 files. We got an 18, probably 1,000 of them had to do with cancellations.
Yeah.
20% of the files we would get are cancellation files. This is where you go out there, you help the homeowner with the claim, you get it approved, you're doing everything the right way. Because you didn't move right to production, they got an ACV check, and now they feel like they want to shop it around. Yeah. And they want to find a lower rate so they can make a little money on the deal. This happens all the time. It pisses roofers off because you did everything the right way. You helped the person, you walked the roof, you met with the adjuster. You have done good, solid work on this individual's behalf. I got bad news for you though. Not the way the judge is going to see it. When you go ahead and you file for that at $2,500 or 5% or some fee you have in your contract, and you say, well, listen, it says it in my contract, they canceled on me, they owe me the money. If you get that before a mediator, or you get that before a judge, they are not going to see it that way. As Anthony said, they are the consumer. So do what you can. Here's my advice to fix that.
Sprinkling COVID on top of that.
Oh yeah, that's right, last year. Do what you can to prevent that gap in time in production. So when the claim is approved, you're not giving that individual time to make that decision to get away from you. That's where you got to be big on it. So watch your books, get to production as quickly as possible, and don't expect miracles on cancellations. This is some advice right there.
And don't expect anything on cancellations.
Yeah, anything.
So I'll tell you from a company that worked on a contingency perspective, instead of an attorney who might be like, yeah, they're great, go for them, put them in there. Yeah, on contingency, we don't take them. That's how awesome they are, because we don't want to deal with them because they're not successful. They don't convert to money.
Yeah, so in your contingency agreements, that cancellation fee is what percentage of the time would you say that is a collective event?
One time. Seriously, one time. I didn't know you were going to ask that question, but I knew the answer. One time.
One time out of how many? How many?
700-800 to be conservative.
Yeah. So you're in about a 1 out of 1,000 to collect that. And the effort in going through that, and the relationship that gets muddled with the homeowner, and the potential referrals and things like that in the future. It's not good for the reputation of the company at the same time.
And this is probably why we do what we do now. We've had more success flipping that person back into a customer than collecting on it. Swear to God.
That's the best way to do it, right? Flip them back into a customer. Hey, I know there's someone out there that might do this for less and give you some money back, but that is insurance fraud, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner.
Yes. God, man, the stories that we hear, it's
I'm sure. And that's what it is. There's a lot to running your business, right? There's a lot of aspects. There's a lot of fine detail that needs to be, that a lot of times when we're trying to grow, you miss, right? You're focusing on just, getting your sales, or you're focused on fulfilling your services, focused on production, focused on your builds. And all of a sudden there's this pile of stuff that, oh man, look at this, look at how big this, look at how backlogged we are on our AR. Look at, we gotta, all right, now, hey, someone in the office needs to start working on that. We got to start collecting those checks. We got now the salespeople are out, like you said, running around trying to collect checks and not moving the business forward by knocking another door, running another lead, right?
Yeah.
Jim, if you want one good way to ruin your reputation in your community, this is it. Because what you just said right there happens all the time. An owner steps away for a few months, goes back and looks at his AR and goes, where did all this come from? Well, we're working on it. No, we're getting on this right away. Call these people up, get on to them, send them to collections. Well, that person who didn't pay you for 6 months, they've in their mind thought, I've gotten away with this entire thing. Now, you throw them into collections 6 months later, that is a very, very good way to ruin the reputation. Why it is so important, as we said, whatever your process is, stick to it, abide by it, because 6 months later, you're asking for the negative reviews. You're asking that person to go to your Facebook, Google, and we don't want to see that happen to anybody. So I think that's just very important that somebody makes that decision of, is it worth it or not to go produce or to go after that $1,500 cancellation fee 6 months after the fact.
Yeah, it started early. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Started early. Your collections process should start as part of your customer service. You should be trying to figure out what happened.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is.
Yeah, building it in. It has to be built in. And it can be a conversation with the homeowner too. That's upfront. Miss Jones that wanted to pay on day 75. Well, in our area, Miss Jones, we have to file our intent to lien on day 60. So I'm going to have to file that. It's part of our process. Don't worry about it. We'll get the check. We'll get it off of there. It's not we're not trying to, make things hard on you. But if we don't and you don't pay us, now we're out of luck, right? So, having that open communication, making sure that it's built into your process is the way to go. 100%. Expectations, huh? Setting expectations with the customer.
Honestly, that's the key to everything. It really is.
Yep. And that comes with the claims. We're talking about the claims here with insurance. Yeah. Expectations meeting the reality is what's going to prevent you from having any customer complaints. And that starts with your sales reps, and it starts with your training that you put out to those individuals. For instance, if you've got somebody out there and you've got a large tile roof and you are filing a claim on that roof, you better go ahead and set the expectation for a denial up front with that customer, because that is what's going to happen. Not doing so and telling them, well, I'm going to work it, we're going to try, we're going to do all this, to have a denial come a month later helped nobody. Yeah. So set the right expectation from the beginning. You will more than help yourself on the collection files. You will have a better customer, a better review, and a better experience for everybody involved.
Definitely.
and everyone gets it. We've all done it. We've all kind of not set the best expectations as a growing business and messed it up. But it's so much easier when you do. Yes. So much easier. And if you lose one customer because they weren't okay with the expectations, you probably saved 5 more.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. It's a long game, right? You got to do this is not this. We get off in this one-off world where we're just trying to get that next check and get that next check.
Yep. You've got to weigh the positive and the negative, Jim. Between the collections, between the person that you take on as a client. We have a theory around here when it says following your gut. If my gut tells me somebody's going to be a very difficult individual who doesn't have their crap together, walk away from it. It's going to do yourself a lot better in the long run than having to deal with headaches for months on end with an individual like that.
Yeah. And the old 80-20 rule.
Yes, I love it. Live by the 80-20.
And don't be afraid to fire a client or a customer. Like I learned that early on in business a long time ago, and that was the best lesson I ever learned.
It's a tough lesson too.
Yeah, like, hey, this might not be the right fit. And it is about your perfect customer. We talk about that a lot on the marketing side. It's identifying your perfect customer. And if you are a solid, reputable company, you have the ability to choose your business a lot better than the chuck in a truck, right? That, as you build your reputation in your community and in your service area, you're able to command more for that and pick and choose. But let's talk about a little bit about the solution that you guys have come up with to alleviate the AR problem in the contractors. What is your process and solution at My Claims Care that can help keep that issue or take that issue out of their business?
Yeah. So Jim, we are so passionate about this because our passion and our goal here at My Claims Care is to help people grow and scale their business and make millions of dollars. That's exactly what it comes down to. So what we started with was something simple. We talked about collections, bad problem that contractors have. And we were just talking about this story yesterday. We went to a Gary Vee conference who said, every day, wake up.
It was actually Tony Robbins.
But Gary Vee was there.
Yeah.
And so he said, wake up every day and think, how can I put myself out of business? How would my competition put me out of business today? And so we kind of did a round table with some people. We said, hey, listen, we're a good collections company, but what would someone do to get rid of us? And there was some weird ball ideas kind of thrown out there, but probably the weirdest was, why don't we just prevent collections from ever happening? Why don't we just say there'll never be an AR ever again? And everyone kind of laughed. And we said, okay, well, let's dive into that. How would we do that? Well, most files are insurance. What if we just paid the claim when you finish the job? What if it worked just like retail? We know we're already really good at chasing down checks. We've already got the infrastructure in place to do it. So why don't we just become that? From there, we went out and got the funding necessary to do it. And we made the process simple for our contractors. When they finish the job, we pay them the RCV for the job. When they go ahead and they get their supplement approved, we pay them the supplement right then. Never chase down a check again, turning insurance into retail so that our contractors don't have an AR anymore for insurance jobs whatsoever. They've eliminated it, and now they're not chasing down checks. They can pay their sales reps right away. They can have more money for marketing so they can get out there. I mean, Jim, can you imagine the power of being able to have a sales rep that comes in for an interview and you go, you're never going to wait months on end for a check here. Soon as we put the roof on here, you're paid your commission for that roof. And by the way, don't ever go back to that homeowner's house and chase down a check again. We're taking care of all that with our team on the back end. So our goal, completely eliminate AR and help contractors grow, man. Give them the money they need so they can stop chasing their own tail. The system's broken, we thought.
That's really interesting. And that I love that Gary Vee line like that. I think about that on all the time, and you guys should too. How can your competition put you out of business? Like that is, and then sitting around the table and figuring it out, right? Like that's a big thing. And so in one of those ideas, right? And this is where those crazy ideas come from, sitting around the table. Hey, let's all just throw ideas out. And now you're like, hey, well, why not have collections? So you guys are still collecting, right? So your job is still collections, but you're also the funding resource, kind of a funding resource. And you're saying, hey, we'll chase down the money. We'll write you the checks up front.
Yeah. Unlike these other companies I've seen out there, and there's great companies and they will chase down your money for you. And I'm sure they do a wonderful job. We take on all the risk though, because I pay you the money the day you complete the job. And the way that we do that, and we've made every mistake, Jim, you can possibly imagine in the beginning.
Twice.
Over. I mean, think about it. The idea became, well, how are we going to know when they finish the job? All right, well, let's just, have them email us the COC. Well, that didn't happen. People didn't want to do that. Then we got the wise idea, Jim, that we would do a text line, and that every company would have a text line and they would text us in pictures, and that we would know then to fund. Well, you know how many sales reps are going to do that. So what we did, and we finally got it right, was we plugged into their CRM. So we become a user in AccuLinks, a Job Nimbus, Job Progress, so that we are communicating with their back office back and forth. When they put a COC into their own system, boom, we're funding their job right there. When they get that supplement approved, boom, we're funding it. They got a question, we can type it in and get their production team online so that everybody's informed about what's going on. That's how you prevent collections, just by never, ever having it again, man. And I think that's when it becomes powerful, is your cash flow each and every month.
Yeah, that's
your
big.
Processes and procedures. I'm a big process guy, man. I like the ABC, go in order. You can't do that with insurance if you're always worried about when is that ACV check bankable. If my whole production depends on that, well, then I have a lot of trouble because things are moving around constantly. If I know I signed up a job today and its claim is now approved and every approved claim goes straight to production, it is a whole different ballgame with respect to, just like we talked about earlier, repeating it over and over and over again and make sure it's good. It's so much easier from a perspective of managing everything.
Yeah, getting the production quicker I think that's a big deal there for sure.
Oh, here's the reason that people don't go to production, which we've seen. We're now from coast to coast working My Claims Care, and I'm telling you, everybody, you're doing the same things wrong. You are getting something approved and you're waiting to move to production because you're waiting for an ACV check to come in. Okay, great, because you want to cover your supplies. Everyone just thinks, well, the ACV check comes in within a week and a half. Let's just put it that way. Well, you got to go get that ACV check. So you're sending a sales rep out there an hour each way to go do that. I'm telling you to think about your numbers. If you're doing 20 roofs a week, that's 20 hours possibly that your men are spending chasing down an ACV check where there's no need to do. They could be spending their time following up, maybe with an adjuster. They could be spending that time selling more roofs, doing something that's going to produce for your company.
They could be spending that time with their family at 6 o'clock at night when they're driving around trying to find something.
Good point.
I mean, quality of life. I was so impressed when one client told us that. I was like, holy shit, that is great. Like, it blew my mind that someone really thought about that. That's genuine, as we talked about earlier.
Yep, Red Truck Roofing in Tampa Bay. I'll never forget him.
Yep.
The guy was just like, it's just about quality of life for my sales reps, not having to leave their home at 6 to go pick up an appreciation check.
And actually prospect, not client, sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
He didn't go with us, but I still think he's a great guy.
Still think he's a good dude.
That's right. That's right. What else can you share with our audience that might, benefit their business and bring more value to their day-to-day?
Here's a trend. I know you talk a lot, Jim, with people doing marketing and sales, okay? And I see so many great advice. You had the guy from Memphis on a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, Andrew Rittenauer. Yeah.
Just dropping bombs left and right, okay? I want to piggyback off some of the stuff he said, though, okay? Here's a mistake that I'm seeing, and I think roofing contractors should make this change immediately. They are doing much better marketing campaigns for their company. I see companies out there, when you're scrolling through your feeds on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. Start empowering your sales reps, though, to make the same video content that you are specific to the area that they are working in. If you give your sales reps a small budget for ads that they themselves can personally become attached to, you are then driving business through your employees into your own bank account. You're empowering them. They're making more money, and there's no one who knows their area more than the sales reps who's work in that neighborhood. So give them that, geofence it to their neighborhood. You go out there and do an install, show that you're on top of the roof in their neighborhood, and then flood that market. So, and hey, I'm over here on Running Horse Road right now. I want to help you, and I'm in your neighborhood. Empower your sales reps, and I think that's a mistake that contractors are making.
Yeah, definitely. I like that idea. There's and that is what Andrew has really done. So
he's great. I mean,
right,
he's just
Andrew's awesome. Andrew's father owns the company, and so he grew up with these salespeople in the company with all the other sales reps. You know, when he was 5-6 years old, he's known some of them, and then when he came in with a different perspective. He's a younger guy with social media, under an understanding of social media and the power of it. And he went for it. And, but I love that idea, because that's what he did. That's what Andrew did is he created a presence for himself. He created a personal brand within his company brand. Right. So, and social media is most effective when there's authenticity.
Yeah.
Right. We see through all of the fake stuff, right? We know when it's a commercial.
Yeah.
Right. We see that. So having that impact, and you guys, I know you guys are working really hard on social media, doing a really good job. You have the podcast, the Roofers Den podcast, the Roofers
exactly.
Show, doing things to bring value to the community and bringing out that authenticity. And that's a great idea with the individual sales reps. Empower your, have a process for the company maybe, and then have a process for the individual sales reps where you're helping assist them in building their personal brand too. What happens? People don't have a mindset of abundance, Patrick.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have that abundance mindset. And that's what only the people with an abundance mindset will empower someone in their company to do something like that without the fear of them taking that with them. Right?
Very true.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Here's another piece of advice, Jim, that I have right now. This is about as genuine as you can come. I think everyone's seen that movie or the show Narcos. You heard of this with Pablo Escobar?
I'm getting nervous. He's getting in the seat. He's getting strapped in right now.
This is God's honest truth. Don't slide out here.
Veins are coming. I see veins.
Got him pumped up.
No, I made this mistake over and over again, Joe. Okay. Anthony put me in charge as a partner doing marketing, and I had no damn clue what I was doing, Jim. So I went out there and I did what everybody does. I said, here are the great things that we can do for your company. We rattled them all off on marketing and we got no response. All right. Now I'm going to circle this back around to Pablo Escobar and why we market like Pablo Escobar marketed. All right. And here's what Pablo Escobar used to do. He would cross a bridge with a bunch of drugs and he would come across the police and he would say to them, and I can't say it in Spanish. He would say, do you want lead or do you want silver? And okay, now let me tell you what, of course, everybody took the silver. They didn't want to die. Here's the key to marketing though. The reason they took the silver is because they didn't want the lead. If all you did is tell them about the silver, they'd say, get lost. I'm going to arrest you right now. It was the lead though that made them take the silver. Here's how I put that into marketing. Some of the most successful marketing campaigns you're ever going to see start with what's going to happen if you don't use our service. They start with the lead. They start with the fear of what's going to happen to my company, my home, my asset. If it's not me, if you don't have me work on your roof, if you don't use my claims care, what is going to happen to you? And they're real fears that you've got to tap into. Once you tap into that, you can give them the silver. Because the silver is going to make it understand it's going to solve the problem for them. You start with the lead, you move to the silver, you hook them around at the end with how they can get that silver, and you've got a successful marketing campaign, in my opinion. So there you go. I've wrapped in marketing, Pablo Escobar, and everything into one right now.
Time for the weekend.
Yeah, I'm good now.
The Pablo Escobar marketing formula for success.
If that doesn't make a clip, Jim, I don't know what will right now.
Put that on the headline. We're going to get so many views.
That might be the headline for this one. But
If I would've
that,
known in
that's
Spanish,
true.
it would have been better.
We talk about on the marketing side of things, so it's first identifying your perfect customer, right? Your ideal customer. And then you have to learn what those fears and implications are of that customer, and then how to alleviate those fears and concerns. It's standard. It's marketing 101, put in a great analogy. So that's awesome, man. Hey, how can our viewers get a hold of you, reach out to you, watch and follow you?
Yeah. So Instagram, Facebook, easiest way to get in touch with us. My Claims Care on Facebook, just My Claims Care, look it right up, or at My Claims Care on Instagram. We have marketing team is constantly looking at those messages. DM us, send us a message. If you want more information, we can send everything right through there for everybody. Very simple. And then YouTube, just throw in the Roofer's Den. Got a lot of great guests on there. Trying to copy what you're doing, Jim, and bring some value to people out there, both homeowners and roofers alike.
Yeah, that's great. I have one question. I want to ask this individually for each of you, because I want different perspectives, and you guys aren't roofers, right? So a lot of times I ask this of roofing contractors or of coaches and consultants to the roofing industry, but I want your perspective from what you see in talking to contractors all the time, and being in front of them and assisting them with My Claims Care and you with the Roofers Den show. What is the greatest insight that you've found that would help someone find success in their roofing business, Anthony?
I would say you got to be comfortable with not knowing everything. Don't think you do. And be comfortable of hiring experts to handle what they need to handle. You only know what you know. I'm very much a huge proponent of sticking in your lane. As we've grown our business, we call them the concierge for our roofing clients that help them with their needs. You know who they are? They're former roofing salespeople, because I don't know how to do that. I hire people for their lane. I stick to my own advice. That's what I do. If you don't know anything about AR and you don't have someone that does, go find someone that does. If you don't know anything about production, find an expert in production. If you're just good at selling roofs, then stick to that part of the business. Stick to what you're good at.
Awesome.
I was
Patrick.
going to say, yeah, my time on the Roofers Den, really what I've learned is that always and nevers are your biggest enemy in growing your business.
Yeah.
What I mean by that, if you tell me I've always done it this way, you are losing out. Look for new and inventive ways to become creative and bypass your competition. If you tell me I've never done that before, okay, you're scared. Maybe you're afraid of fear of failure. Let's get out there, though, and try something new. Try a Facebook ad before you knock it. Get out there and give it a shot. Turn on your camera, turn it around and look at you. Say something for 30 seconds about who you are and do it, man.
I'm so impressed with you.
Don't let that fear stop you from making that happen. So always and never, they can crush your company. Just get away from those and keep on innovating.
So when we first started like 4 or 5 years ago, he was scared to switch from Microsoft to Gmail. So this is nice to hear. I don't want to do it. I've always used Microsoft.
Oh, man.
Gotta live by those words, Patrick. This has been another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast. If you would like to generate more sales through your digital marketing efforts, please visit roofermarketers.com and get a copy of the book, Internet Marketing for Roofing Contractors, How to Triple Your Sales and Turn Your Roofing Website into an Online Lead Generation Machine. Also, check the training section of the website for guides on everything from running effective pay-per-click ads to how to properly set up your Google My Business listing. This has been another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast. Thanks for listening.